Happy New Year, everyone! It's 2018, even though it's actually the 14th of January when I'm recording this. Come on, you know I have to do this. I've done my best of the year video, and now I have to seep through the worst of what I saw in those 12 months. I wonder what kind of joke I've got on this, actually. What do acrobats like to drink? Anything in a tumbler. Oh, for goodness sake. Now, there are some films that have always belonged where they are on this list, but there are also those that I've had to keep rearranging as the list progressed on. And of course, I haven't seen every single movie that came out in 2018. There will be a brief list in the description below for all the ones I didn't get the chance to watch. And as usual, I've ranked these based on which ones I would rather watch if I had a gun pointed to my head. So, let's start, shall we? These are the top 10 worst movies that I saw in 2018. Let's start off with number 10. Starting off our list at number 10 is The Grinch, an animated film that straight up bored me and it got progressively worse as it went along. Congratulations, Benedict Cumberbatch, not only are you in my best of the year list, but you're also in my worst. Nothing interesting happens in the story. The inhabitants of Whoville are just incredibly annoying. I mean, I get that they're supposed to be like that, but can you at least make them likeable? Oh yeah, and after the Grinch commits the biggest burglary in history by stealing everyone's presents on Christmas Eve, they decide to just invite him round for Christmas dinner. Yeah, because that's what I'd do if I was burgled on Christmas Eve. Just invite the burglar around for dinner. Yeah, because, you know, that makes sense, doesn't it, for any rational human being? Honestly, I am just glad that I don't have to see this movie ever again. Coming up next is The Nun. Good lord, how could you have messed this up? This was a spin-off from The Conjuring. This could have been awesome, but just like The Grinch, it was boring. Nothing happens for 3/4 of the film, and you keep trying to tie it into the Conjuring film series instead of trying to let it be its own thing. You know, like Annabelle Creation. The, scary parts of the film, such as summoning demons or the film taking place in a haunted nunnery, just made me laugh most of the time. At least the soundtrack was alright, but other than that, I expected nothing, yet I was still disappointed. Coming in at number 8 is Night School. Kevin Hart. Right, that's number 7. What? Really? Do I have to talk about this film? It's Kevin Hart, for crying out loud. Fine. Kevin Hart plays Kevin Hart. I don't need to explain it further. It's just like Ed Helms, playing the same character in every single movie that they're in. Hart has to go back to school in order to get his GED qualification in order to get the career that he really wants, and he doesn't even tell his girlfriend about it. So he spends an entire year lying to his partner. And then at the start of the third act, when all of it comes out, she forgives him in like 10 minutes. What a lovely relationship. Most of the characters are just really annoying and unfunny, but the only part that did make me laugh was when Kevin Hart's shop explodes in a fiery ball of flame, and then Hart is blown backwards and crashes on top of his car and knocking him unconscious. Yeah, that was the only part that made me laugh. I'm not kidding, that was actually quite funny. Everything else is just a mix of cringy and awful scenes, and it just makes Night School one of the worst movies of 2018. One of. I'm not done there yet. Coming up next is a movie with a lot of potential based off a real-life event that could have been awesome. Then I realised it was coming out in January, and unsurprisingly, it sucked. And that's Winchester. Oh my god, how boring can you be? I know I said some bad things about Night School, but at least something happened in it. At least Night School had a plot, but this one just dragged on for 2 boring-ass hours. And the dialogue between Helen Mirren and Jason Clarke was such a snooze fest. It was so obvious that they were just phoning it in for a quick check, and a film like this is probably not going to have an impact on their careers. But at the same time, I now think that no one is going to look at a film and say, oh wow, that looks really good, Jason Clarke's in it. Guys, Robin Hood could have been something amazing. It was based off an old Great British classic, a story about a hero who's fighting a corrupt capitalist system led by the church and the sheriffdom with the goal of consoling power just for themselves so they could rule Nottingham for as long as they possibly could. But no, it was boring. And I was laughing my ass off in the cinema with around 50 other people surrounding me. The special effects were dreadful to say the least, and the editing was so poor that I could hardly concentrate half the time. Taron Egerton as well, you're a talented actor. There were so many good performances in this film, but they were such a letdown. You know what? I'm absolutely certain that Robin Hood's going to get quite a few Razzies this year. Number 5 is actually a film that was released on Netflix, and I didn't know it existed until Chris Stuckman and the Flickpick did a commentary video on it. Yeah, The Open House is just as boring as it sounds. A thriller focusing on a grieving family who moved to rural America and they're being hunted down by a mysterious killer. Jesus, I wonder how many cliches that ticks off. TV tropes, anyone? Oh god, it tries to keep you in suspense, but this took me 3 sittings to watch. To put that in perspective, the worst movie I've ever seen, Battlefield Earth, took me 4 sittings to watch. I nearly had the same amount of viewings as Battlefield Earth with this film. I hated the mother and son so much. Their relationship is just diabolical. Oh yeah, and the son is also an aspiring Olympian. Not that you would know that because it contributes nothing to the story, and yet they keep bringing it up. I should not want the main characters in a horror story to be massacred, but here we are. Guys, what the hell was Blockers? A group of parents tried to barge in on the private lives of their young children. And bear in mind, their young children are adults now. They're 18 to 19 years old. This movie just reminded me of A Bad Mum's Christmas, where these parents just can't understand the fact that their kids are growing up and they are now adults. They even try and spy on their own children when they're trying to lose their virginity. Who thought that was funny? And near the end, they try and make me feel sympathy for the parents, and understandably, their kids tell them to piss off. Don't try and make me feel sympathy for parents who treat their kids like rubbish, otherwise you're just going to end up like A Bad Mum's Christmas. Hey, did any of you guys see The Nutcracker in the Four Realms? If so, did you remember it? Because I did. Good Lord. The story is boring from start to finish. The father has less emotions than an abandoned train, and Keira Knightley is clearly just phoning it in, and she has the most annoying voice I've seen in a film all year. Oh my god, I just love a man in uniform. Ah! And that's something I just recorded in a YouTube video. Also, Helen Mirren is just visibly uncomfortable for most of the film. God, this has been a really bad year for you, hasn't it? Nothing happens in this film, and it will just be forgotten like everything else on this list soon enough. I know I'm going to get some negative comments for this, but frankly, I don't care. This movie was god-awful, and that's a simple favour. Am I the only one that hated this? Because clearly a lot of people seem to like it. Blake Lively is very annoying, and I hated her. Oh, and she also apparently had an identical twin sister that she apparently murdered, and that just came out of nowhere. Anna Kendrick is running a cooking show off of a YouTube knockoff, and soon that cooking show becomes a discussion channel for the disappearance of Blake Lively's character. And then there's the worst part of it all. The incest storyline. I didn't make that up. There is a genuine storyline focusing on the past where Anna Kendrick's character had sex with her brother after her father's funeral. I don't even need to explain why that is as messed up as it is. And this is just my number 2. You're gonna love number 1, trust me. Before I get to my number 1 worst film of 2018, I want to take a couple minutes out to talk about some more films that didn't actually make the list in my dishonourable mentions. These go to the films that I really wanted to include in my top 10, but unfortunately I couldn't, and I still want to talk about them. These films are The Cloverfield Paradox. Yeah, the only bit of marketing for this was that one Super Bowl ad, and after watching the film, it's not really that surprising. The plot is all over the place, and frankly, I'm just not feeling anything at all after the characters die. It was just bad. The First Purge. For the love of God, just please stop making these movies. They tried to give us an origin story to the main event of the film, and it was just boring as usual. I still could not stand any of the characters in the films, and the bad guys, again, were just laughably stupid. So before I talk about the worst movie that I saw in 2018, I want to talk about one more film in what I call my letdown mention. This goes to the one which I was really excited for this year. I could not wait to see it in the cinema, and then I walked out let down and angry. In the past, I've given it to films like these, and for 2018, I am giving my letdown mention to Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. I was really excited to see this. I heard a lot of good things about it from my friends at the Harry Potter Society that I'm a part of at my university. But what I saw was a gigantic mess. The film cares more about special effects than writing a good story with decent characters. The editing was so over the place in the beginning that it was actually making my eyes hurt, and there was so much more that I could talk about here, but this video would never end if I did. So I'm going to put a link in the description below to a YouTuber called Janie Nicholson who talked about everything that is wrong with Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. She pretty much just delves into everything that I found wrong with the movie. Here we are, folks. The worst movie that I saw in 2018. The number 1 biggest pile of rubbish from those 12 months. I thought this had to be overtaken at some point because it came out so early on in the year. But no, it was number 1 for 8 months. 8 consecutive months. And so, the worst film that I saw in 2018 was Truth or Dare. God. Oh my God. I know I rambled on about a simple favour, but good lord, what happened here? I have a feeling this was meant to come out in January, but it got delayed by like 3 months. Truth or Dare just brings back all of the horror movie tropes that we are sick and tired of at this point. A group of teenagers played by people in their 20s and 30s trying to kill a demon that they summoned back from the dead. They tried to make a kids game spooky, but they failed miserably and hilariously at the exact same time. Also, when the characters get possessed by the Truth or Dare demon, the face they make when they're trying to make a Truth or Dare proposition is ridiculous to say the least. And then there's the ending. If you thought all of that was bad enough, that wasn't enough to solidify its place on the number 1 spot. The ending, on the other hand, was. In the end, there's only 2 main characters that are still alive. The demon is still out there, but instead of sacrificing themselves to save the rest of humanity, all 7.5 billion of us, they decide to release the demon into the world through a YouTube video. I'm not kidding. Instead of sacrificing yourself to save the rest of the human race, they make a YouTube video about it. So yeah, this is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a YouTube video. I'll be honest with you, I thought nuclear war or global warming would get us first. This is basically just the new version of found footage. We are going to get so many more of these kinds of movies over the coming years, which means at least I'm going to have some more films to put onto this list in the future. And so, my friends, for all of those reasons that I just mentioned, I'm so happy to say that Truth or Dare was the absolute worst movie that I saw in 2018. So folks, those were the top 10 worst films that I saw in the last 12 months. There were many moments last year when I wanted to leave the cinema, but thankfully, every single time I managed to stick it out until the very end. But I'll be honest with you, 2018's been a bit of a weird year for films. I mean, on the one hand, we did get stuff such as A Quiet Place and Infinity War, but I don't think it's really been up to par with 2015 and 2017, and we got some great releases then. But who knows, maybe 2019 could be a fantastic year for film fans. I mean, who knows, it could happen. Guys, thank you so much for watching this latest video. Let me know in the comments section below what the worst films you saw in 2018 were, and other than that, I've been Tartarus Pictures, and I hope you all have a fantastic 2019. Good night.